Hello, I am Megan Forsyth. I am the principal at the amazing Whitman Post Elementary School, and I am going to be reading Chapter 13 from Because of the Rabbit. Enjoy. Bonding rabbits isn't always a smooth process. Sometimes a few steps forward is followed by a step backward. First thing the next day, I told Leah and Iris my idea. They had shut down my other ideas, but this time I had Jack on my side. Jack and I filmed our statements about each other, but we decided to do our own reveals in person. It'll be more interesting for the audience. I don't like to talk in front of the class, Iris said, unpacking her backpack. I put my hands on my hips, ready to argue. But Leah said, I like Emma's idea. She's right. That'll be more interesting. And if we're holding something for the reveals, it's not as hard as just standing there. Iris shook her head. Let's just take a vote, Jack said. The vote was 3-1 to do the reveals in person. Iris didn't look happy, but I didn't worry about it too much. We had done everything her way up until then. Jack and I changed some of our statements too. The frogs were a homeschool experiment, Jack added. My smile froze. I was homeschooled, I blurted out, hoping Leah and Iris didn't hear exactly what he'd said. My new truths are that I climbed Mount Katahdin and I like kayaking. With Owen, Jack said, though he's busy now. Homeschooled? Do you mean you've never been to school? Iris asked. The words weren't mean, but the way she said it sounded like I didn't know anything. I did my schoolwork at home, I started to say, but I was relieved to see Miss Martle coming over just then. Jack came to my house yesterday, I told her quickly, to put distance between me and the homeschool subject. He met my rabbit. I touched him, Jack said, only on his back. Miss Martle's eyebrows went up. You did, Jack? That's great. How did the rabbit feel? Happy, Jack replied. Miss Martle opened her mouth like maybe she was expecting him to say soft, but then she smiled and how did you feel? Scared, Jack said. And you touched him anyway? Miss Martle asked. Good for you, Jack. I think it's cool that you were homeschooled, Leah said to me. She does? Thanks. Do you want to sit with us at lunch today? Leah asked. Nora has book club, so there's an empty spot at our table. Jack looked at me. You won't get away this time, Monsieur Lappe, he said in his Elmer Fudd voice. You rascally. Please stop talking, Jack. It makes you stand out and not in a good way. Sure, I'd like that, I said loudly. I was in over my head. Jack and I had fun when it was just us, but it was harder to be his friend in a group. While homeschooling, I mostly saw friends 1 or 2 at a time, so I could always adapt and meet them in the middle between us. Here, that middle seemed to be constantly changing and sometimes disappeared altogether. And I never tried to be friends with kids who weren't friends with each other before. Leah rolled her eyes sympathetically at me. Right there, I knew I had to choose. I liked Jack, and I wanted to be friends with him. But I really wanted to be friends with some girls, too. And this was my first real chance. I rolled my eyes, too.